Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. D.K. Geyer, and joining me today is Evan Jones. And our topic of conversation today is being vegan and the positive attitude that you need for a healthy body. So how long have you been vegan?
It's 5 years right now. It'll be 6 years this November. And ironically, I started right after I met you and after I went through the whole Reiki training. And the reason for, I always wanted to go over or become healthier and have a healthier diet. Because when I was younger, I was just brought up on, eating the stereotypical American diet. Like, we would have ham, burgers, cook out on the grill all the time, the hot dogs and all of those things. And I would always notice that I'd always get tired, extremely tired after eating these things. Like I would need a nap instantly. And it didn't really dawn on me until I became older and when I was in high school. And when I was in high school, you go up and you get the a la carte and you can pick a bunch of different things from caches or cams and you can eat all of these things. And when I would eat these things, I remember I would go to my next class and I'd just be drained, I'd be tired. So I continued on that path for a while. And then when I graduated, the real specific event that took place was I went for, it wasn't my graduating class, but the next year after that, I went for senior week. And, it did what kids do, you drink, and I partied and I just ate a terrible diet that whole week I was down there. And I remember when I came back, my heart was just racing while I was laying in bed because I binge drank that whole week, and then I just ate terrible. I was eating ramen noodles the whole time I was there. So I'm sure my blood pressure was elevated, and I was like, man, I got to make a change. So I went and I found a few different supplements, and one in particular was the supplement called Ormus. And Ormus is a Dead Sea salt mixture, which is funny because I just said I ate too much salt, but it's a supplement that is rearranged by its molecular structure. And so the real name for it is ORMEs, orbitally rearranged monatomic elements. And so these elements have taken different metals like gold, platinum, iridium, rhodium, and have change their molecular structure so that they can be bioavailable to the body and be utilized by the body to facilitate healing. And the healing, it helps to heal the DNA and recorrect damage that has been done to the body. And not only does it affect that, but it affects your brain. So it synchronizes the brain hemispheres and it makes you in a theta and alpha state rather than meditating for hours on end to get to that state. So I was taking those things, and then it was maybe a year after doing that, I found you through my friend, and he was going to a karate school, which the master there had figured out, or had went to one of your sessions, your Reiki sessions, and he told Colton about it. And when he told him, he came and told me because he knew I was big into Eastern medicine and things like that. So me and him scheduled a session, and he had his session first, and then I had mine. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but when you were over top of either my third eye or my heart, you said, "What is this salty mixture that you're taking?" Because you told me I was taking too much of it. And I almost rolled off the table because I was like, there's something to this lady. And so that's when I started going through your Reiki sessions and did the attunements and stuff. And so through level 1, you do a 3-day fast. Level 2, you do a 5-day, if I'm not mistaken. And then the level 3, you do a 7-day. Now you give the option of you can do fruit, juice, whatever. But on the 7th, and then I did an additional one after that. But on the 7th, I chose to do a water fast. And then I did an additional 8-day water fast. And when I did that 8-day water fast, I completely cut out all meats and all of the animal products minus dairy. I still had dairy, and this was in 2014. So when 2015 rolled around in November, I chose to eliminate all dairy, all animal products totally, and take a plant-based diet, a truly plant-based diet, and just rolled with it for all the way up until my time now, which is what brought me here. And it's changed my life entirely. I feel more energized, especially when I get a full 8 hours of sleep in, I'm totally energized. I'm totally awake, totally focused. I don't have the sense of racing in my heart. I work out a ton, so I have pains and stuff, the soreness and stuff, but that's just maybe I moved my arm wrong and stuff, or maybe I just worked out really hard and my muscles are trying to build themselves back up. But I definitely feel like I have more energized and more get up and go, more focusedness, and I don't need caffeine. I rarely ever drink coffee. That's what brought me to that point. Yeah.
Cool. That's amazing. So I speak with a lot of vegans. We talked before about me being vegetarian for years until my last pregnancy. And I am mainly vegan vegetarian now. But what would you say was the most difficult part of becoming vegan? And when I say that, not just the foods that you choose, just being in groups or with family to say, wow, that looks really good. I'm not putting that in my body.
Well, you just said it right there. Family is the hardest because my grandmother, she's an excellent cook. So is my mom. And when I started to go to family dinners and stuff again, they would put like, my grandma makes this homemade like Amish Dutch pot pie or whatever. It's ham pot pie. So she, makes the dough, makes her own noodles, puts ham broth, puts all kidney beans and stuff in it. And she would make that, and that was like my favorite meal. And she made it this one time, and I was like, Nana, I'm sorry, but I can't eat it. I'm not eating this stuff anymore. And they just look at me like something's wrong with me, or they did something wrong. And it's the disappointment because, people they get offended by it, and not just my family, but just other people. They'll make this dish, and then they immediately, from being offended, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. And then it's like, no, it's okay. Like I don't want the exposure. I don't want this stuff like that. I just want to. It's fine. Acknowledge that I'm vegan, but I don't. You don't need to apologize to me because this is my choice. Like, I don't want to cast my beliefs or what I do on anybody else. If you, by your own way, want to ask me and want to get more knowledgeable, then by all means, I'm an open book. I'll tell you whatever you want, but I don't like to force anything on them. Just like with my children, I don't force them to follow the same diet. I want them to freely choose. I introduce things to them, but I don't say like, you need to eat this kale salad. But yeah, family members would be the hardest. And then trying to find vegan options at restaurants, because a lot of times you're just going to eat a salad and make sure that they don't have cheese mixed into it, or it's not already mixed in with like some kind of dressing or some kind of meat in it or anything like that. That's the big thing that you got to watch. And even with these burgers that they have, the vegan burgers and stuff like that, because I've partaken in those too. You got to watch because you don't know how they're cooking them. They could be cooking them on the same grill and things like that. So it's all a matter of being aware, being conscious of the handling practices, and understanding that like not all things that are labeled vegan are essentially healthy for you, because now there's a lot of imitation products, a lot of different things that have different fillers and sodiums and high in sodium that's on the market now, and it could be just as dangerous. I mean, I don't know wholeheartedly, but it could be just as dangerous as eating a standard American diet, with all of the carcinogenic foods that we have to select from. Yeah.
Yes. I have found, especially with family, and the way I would approach it is, well, I just say Uncle Joey doesn't like barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
And we know Susie isn't going to eat any broccoli.
Yeah.
I'm not eating meat. We all know inside a family who does not eat olives, who doesn't eat yogurt.
Yeah.
But somehow when it's vegan and you don't want to eat meats or you don't want to eat the same thing, all of a sudden it seems to take on its own situation. Even though we know everyone in the family, extended family, we know what they like or what they don't like. Oh, Aunt Martha has never had a cup of coffee in her life. We don't make Aunt Martha feel bad about it.
Yeah,
but
no.
somehow, if you put the word vegan or no meat, it seems to have just a different connotation.
Yeah.
So that's why I was so curious about it.
But it's funny because, why is that though? That's the question that you have to ask, because we're indoctrinated from the beginning. It's like, you got the Thanksgiving, you got the big old turkey, you got the mashed potatoes that have so much butter in, you got the baked mac and cheese, you have all those things, and we've been eating that over and over again. And this is funny because in the African American community, for sure, we have the soul food. Like my dad is from down south, and he eats the ham hocks, the chicken gizzards, and things like that, or they get the big fried chicken and stuff like that. And it's funny because they say soul food, but when I look at it, it's like, heart attack central food. Like you're gonna gain weight. You're gonna have that big old beer belly looking stomach at the end of the dinner, and you're just gonna not feel great. But I can eat just a salad, or I could eat just like a vegan meal that I prepared and still feel pretty good after I get up from the dinner table. But, even at the school age children, they get that food pyramid if they're still using that. I know they've changed it slightly over and over again, but, you're taught that like these are the healthy things, but I think that the greens and the fruits and stuff should be at the top of the pyramid. Why isn't that if they haven't changed it yet? It wouldn't be such a challenge and for the American society if we started children young to select these healthier options from the beginning rather than selecting all of these other things. Because now if you look at the American society as a whole, what's so prevalent is you have, everybody knows somebody with diabetes. Everybody knows somebody has cancer. Everybody knows somebody that has like heart problems, overweight, obesity, things like that. And I mean, I'm sure other people can relate if they go to like their churches and they get the prayer requests and be like, oh, pray for so-and-so because they're having health problems, they're having this. And I feel bad for those people, not only because they're hurting, but because the ignorance that they have to what they're putting into their bodies, And it makes me wonder, like, because I don't think when they go to the doctor, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe that they have a dietitian come in unless it's certain cases where they say, hey, this is how you need to eat. I know they do some with diabetes, but come in and tell them like, hey, this could, be beneficial. I think we all can agree that more plant-based material is going to be more beneficial for you in some areas. That's what we all can agree on. Now, there's a lot of studies out there that is shown to correct different ailments and stuff like that. And if we had more funding, more research done, we could stamp these mark of approvals and say like, hey, this is a surefire way to cure your cancer, cure your diabetes. But it's unfortunate because that's how these, meat companies and diet companies who say the vegan diet is not good, that's how they get away from it. They're like, well, there's not enough material to say that's true. Like that's a cop-out. So it's unfortunate, but I think if we start young, if we start introducing this stuff, it would make a healthier option for the American society. And I think we would see that. I think we would see less ailments in our society.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
It does take education. Dietitians normally do have a conversation about diabetes, but they tell them to eat protein, meat-based protein with every carbohydrate.
And not to cut you off, but it's funny because it's not the sugar, from what I understand, that causes the diabetes. Right. What causes it is the accumulation of fat, and what has a lot of fat in? Animal material. Right. So the insulin cannot penetrate, and then therefore you have this sugar, and the pancreas is just overworking and exerting itself, and now you're producing more and more of the what's the injection that insulin. And so the insulin can't do what it needs to do, and that's what causes the diabetes. It's funny, it's counterproductive. But go ahead, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, That's quite all right. But that's true.
Yeah.
So if we just went back to basics, like we're human bodies, we have very few requirements actually. We just need water, nutrition, rest, sunlight, just very basic things. But marketing tells you that you have to have this and you have to have that and you have to have this in your body, when essentially we're 400,000 years old, and half the stuff that we eat today didn't exist even 30 years ago. So man made this plate or pyramid or plan that you have to have 3 square meals a day. That is a man-made requirement, especially in the U.S.
Yeah.
So when you travel to Europe or Asia, what we eat in one sitting is more food than most people eat in an entire day. But their small portions are actually packed with nutrients. Yeah.
When I was doing my fasting, I noticed that there's 2 minds in the body, because I found myself either it would be when I would wake up or it'd be middle part of the day, I would find myself going to the fridge after I knew I was fasting. I would go to the fridge, look in there, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm fasting. And I was like, why is that? It's because we become addicted to eating and overeating, and you don't realize how much time is consumed by eating food, preparing food and stuff like that until you go without. And it's a real profound awakening during a fast, because you realize that like your body isn't always hungry, And we just eat to either indulge, or we eat to fulfill time, or we eat when we're bored. And I think it's funny because when our bodies are hungry, when we get that hunger pain that we feel inside of ourselves, I don't think it's because like, oh, I need to go make a big meal of mac and cheese, or I need to make a big meal of like whatever. I think and it's funny too, because have you ever seen somebody who eats a lot of food and then they say, oh, I'm still hungry? It's because their bodies are hungry for the nutrition
Right.
and the nutraceutical values that we need, and it's void within the food that we're eating and ingesting, and essentially we're starving ourselves from the inside out. Like, yeah, we're filling ourselves up, but we're not getting what we need. And so people wonder, like, they're like, oh, he was so healthy like when he was younger, and then they just keep eating, and as they age, it's like the body can only take so much. Like, it's funny, back to the family members, we always get these family members who said, well, so-and-so ate this all their lives and they lived to the ripe old age of 90 something, whatever. Yes, but how many health problems do we have? Like, I have a family member, I love her to death. She is 95 and she is in very good health, but she's had a stent in her heart and she's had other different health problems. And this was one of the things that led me to a plant-based diet. It's like, when I get to that age, and as I get older, I don't want to be on 7-8 different medications. I don't want to be, doing a bunch of different procedures and surgeries to correct things that are going wrong with my body. And I haven't had a surgery yet, thank God. But I want to have a life that is abundant of life. And I want to be able to be just as youthful, just as vibrant as I am right now. And I plan to do that as best as I can, to the best of my knowledge, for the rest of the time. And I believe that plant-based diets will help me to get there. And I think that science has suggested that. But it's interesting because I just don't understand how people are okay with, they just say, well, I'm going to die anyways. Well, I'm not afraid of death, but I want to live as long as I can and learn as much as I can, because who knows, life might be 20 million times better years down the road. And I want to be able to see that. I want to be able to see my grandchildren. I want to be able to interact with them as my children get older, my grandchildren get older. And hopefully nothing happens to me as far as like getting in a car accident or anything like that. But I want to live that life. I want to be able to see all of those things. And I think that if we make these healthier choices and we do these things and get out of that mindset that, I'm going to die anyways. If we get out of that, we could make healthier choices. But people it's almost funny. I think a lot of mental health issues come from the diet as well. And I feel like that's such an entropic view of life. Like, why do you just say you're going to die anyways? So you're going to just it's like, you're just going to keep stabbing yourself. I'm going to die anyway, so I'll just keep stabbing myself. Like, that's kind of funny, I don't know if that's a good comparison, but that's the way I look at it.
I think it is, and I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Well, my grandfather drank all this whiskey,
Smoked
a pint
cigarettes.
of whiskey, and smoked and ate hamburgers. You know what? Your grandfather did not ever, or your great grandfather did not ever put a cigarette in his mouth that's on the market today.
Yeah.
It actually had tobacco in it, not 6,000 chemicals.
Yeah, and
or
the pure
3,000 chemicals.
over there in different countries, they have pure tobacco and they smoke that. And I don't know if it's as harmful or not, but it seems like it's not, because they don't have the cancer rates that we have as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when people are making those statements, it shows the lack of connection to our food today. So a hamburger in 1950 is not the same as a hamburger in 2020.
Yeah.
The amount of fillers that's in a fast food burger did not exist in 1950. So great grandma was doing fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why she lived so long. And the whiskey was not genetically modified, and they drank it straight rather than being mixed with high fructose corn syrup sodas. And so that lifestyle is often compared to what we're doing today. The difference is that the grass-fed cow in the backyard had no antibiotics or hormones or steroids.
Yeah.
So when they were partaking of meat, it contained nutrition to some level. Today it's very difficult to find that in a supermarket meat source.
Exactly. And even with the grass-fed, that was another thing I wanted to touch on. It's funny because when I first dived into this healthier lifestyle, I always thought like GMOs were everywhere and we were consuming, but the most genetically modified material is consumed by industrial livestock. And it's funny because, we get these steaks and we get all this stuff, but all of it has been, I think it's called like a biotransfer or something like that, but they're consuming this genetically modified material. And then there is some studies, I don't know them all, but I know one in particular, like where they were eating genetically modified corn through rats and it produced tumors and things like that. Well, if these livestock are consuming it as well, I'm sure they're getting this cancerous material inside of their bodies, and then we consume that product, that meat, after it goes to the butcher, gets chopped up and stuff like that. And the other thing with the FDA as well, what people fail to realize is with other chemical additives, bugs, material and stuff, all of this is there's certain increments that are allowed into the packaged material, and people forget this. So you're not only are you getting the beef tenderloin, you're getting bugs, you're getting whatever they consume on all of these things, and people are okay with that. And then they wonder how this is harming their cholesterol levels. They wonder how it's harming their bodies in whatever various different way that you can put in. But the genetically modified material is just insane to me because it's not a live, like it's a human hybrid. And Dr. Sebi, he talks about this a lot. Like, and one of the people that can solidify me in this vegan diet is that you want to eat to live. You're either eating to live or you're eating to die. And so he has this whole idea of eating electric foods, and electric foods are naturally occurring material that the earth has produced. The most interesting one, and I was trying to do some research last night about this to make sure it was sound. The carrot, the orange carrot that we see, is actually a hybrid food. Natural carrots aren't actually like that color. I think they're a different color. They're like a shade of purple. Yeah. And so they crossbred this plant, and then they tell you it's good for their eyes. There is a nutraceutical value to it. However, it's not the body can't assimilate it as best as what a natural carrot would be. So these genetically modified foods, they change the body in a sense of you're eating something that can't be assimilated, and so that I would theorize it and say that it changes the DNA and the molecular structure, because everything that we put in our mouths, like our bodies are like the engine, and if we're putting something into, like if we put diesel into a gasoline engine, it's not going to run properly. So you need to have the right specified fuel to put into the body for it to run efficiently, and if you don't, the engine's not going to run right. You're going to have a spark plug fail, and that could be your heart. You're going to have something else fail, and that could be whatever. And it's because you're not putting the proper fuel, you're not doing the proper maintenance, you're not doing all of these things. And now, out of abundance, because we wanted to produce genetically modified foods to create more to fulfill this population, now we're sacrificing health, and rather than giving the best value or best, food for our bodies, in a sense. Like, we're not getting the right proper, what's the word I'm looking for? The right thing that has the most nutrition for our bodies that would benefit us more. And so that's why we see people who are overweight and getting sick and all of those things. It's unfortunate, but I don't know. I hope that people, whoever is in charge of creating the foods and things like that, I hope they see this, because if we put more funding and stuff into farming and agriculture and produce a healthier, base of food, I think that we would improve our health greatly, for sure.
When working with clients or in a lecture situation, I use this statement: your body is your fortress. It is up to you to defend it. Do you have a statement that you use when speaking?
Yeah, I guess going back to the plant-based view, I love the quote, who I believe is Hippocrates, says, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food." I love that quote because it's so true, because our food is what fuels the body, and it can also be medicine. We have different herbs and things like that. And so not only is it food, but it becomes our medicine to heal our bodies and regenerate ourselves and revitalize ourselves to bring about vitality and youth and healthiness. So that would be mine. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's amazing.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
The content of this video contains the author's opinions, observations, thoughts, conclusions, and serves as informational and educational material purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, medical diagnosis, or medical treatment. The author is not prescribing medical treatment nor attempting to negate current medical treatment. Should viewers choose to follow any of the author's recommendations without the supervision of a medical doctor, they are doing so at their own risk. Should viewers decide to implement any of this information in the video, they are solely responsible for any outcome. The statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The products mentioned in the video are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.